They didn't just kill humanity, they awoke something the galaxy feared would never rise again. 7 billion people murdered in 57 relentless minutes, and the Galactic Empire celebrated it as necessary cleansing, a routine extermination of an upstart species. But humans do not die quietly. We don't vanish. We don't kneel. We adapt. We weaponize grief. And when the universe tries to erase us, we answer with the one thing more terrifying than extinction, a species with nothing left to lose. The Empire thought Earth's ashes marked the end. But in the black ice of Neptune, a hidden fleet, one the Empire never detected, one humanity never revealed, opened its crimson eyes for the first time. Operation Extinction had begun. Earth died in silence. Not a peaceful silence, not the quiet of sleep, but the hollow, suffocating silence that follows a scream too loud for sound. Cities once alive with motion were reduced to skeletal shadows. Oceans boiled where beams of imperial plasma fell. The sky itself was torn open, scorched until its colors vanished, leaving a dull gray haze that clung to ruins like a mourning veil. 7 billion humans once breathed beneath that atmosphere. Now their absence weighed heavier than the rubble burying the streets. The Empire believed the message was clear: submit or be annihilated. Humanity, in their eyes, had been erased. But deep within Outpost Helix, an unregistered listening post buried in Kuiper Belt, Admiral Reyes watched the final broadcast from Earth Replay for the 1,000th time. A child reaching upward before the blast consumed her, a soldier screaming at a sky he could not fight, a city dissolving into blinding fire. He watched it all without blinking, without flinching, because these images were no longer pain. They were fuel. The door hissed open behind him, but he didn't turn. Not yet. He waited until the child's last frame faded into static before finally speaking. Is the council assembled? His second-in-command, Captain Mara Vance, nodded. They're waiting for you, Admiral. Riven shut off the screen. The room dimmed instantly, as though even the lights mourned. He walked through the narrow corridors of Outpost Helix, once a scientific station, now a graveyard of burned-out terminals and makeshift bunk rooms. Every step echoed with the memory of a planet that no longer existed. Do we have full confirmation? Mara asked. Full, Riven replied quietly. Earth is gone. No survivors from the surface. Orbital stations destroyed. Every scan shows the same. Mara swallowed. 7 billion. Her voice cracked. Riven didn't. 7 billion murdered, he said. And the Empire believes this ends here. She looked at him. It doesn't. No, he answered. Not even close. They entered the command conclave. The last high command of the human race rose to their feet. No diplomats, no politicians, only warriors who had outlived their home. Riven stepped to the hollow table. A red mark blinked where Earth should have been. The Empire thinks humanity is dead, he began. They believe we have no fleets, no colonies, no infrastructure, no will to fight. He pressed a command. The table flickered. A black sigil appeared, a shattered star encircled by rings of fire. Operation Extinction. A tremor moved through the room. 20 years ago, Riven said, the Terran Defense Committee created a contingency for the day humanity faced extermination. A secret fleet, a hidden arsenal, technology no nation ever admitted existed. A final promise. The next hologram ignited. A fleet of ships unlike any humanity had ever fielded, obsidian hulls, angular frames, crystalline armor, and reactors burning with cold red light. They were silent, monstrous, beautiful in a way only a weapon of extinction could be. These ships were not made to defend us, Riven said. They were made to erase the civilization that tried to wipe us out. Mara's breath caught. Sir, are they active? Riven's eyes glowed with something colder than rage. They woke the moment Earth died. The hollow showed Neptune's shadow side, then the ice cracked split, and the abyssal vault opened like a colossal metal maw. One by one, the black ships rose, shaking centuries of frost from their armor, engines roaring to life. Terrifying. Unstoppable. Human. Riven looked around the room, voice low, but burning. The Empire wanted our extinction. He leaned forward. So we'll show them what extinction truly looks like. No one spoke. No one needed to. The war to end an empire had begun. The war to end an empire had begun. But Operation Extinction was more than ships and rage. It was a strategy forged in humanity's darkest hour, refined by minds who understood that vengeance meant nothing without precision. The Empire was vast, thousands of star systems, millions of soldiers, entire species under its boot. Humanity, by comparison, was a ghost, a remnant, a scattered whisper, which made them dangerous beyond measure. In the cold shadow of Neptune, the fleet completed its awakening. Skirmish drones unfurled wings of black alloy. Orbital cannons folded into position. Ancient reactors hummed, pulsing with crimson light, like beating hearts. These were weapons humanity wasn't meant to use, technology drawn from forbidden experiments, from crashed alien vessels, from theories too unstable for public knowledge. Now, with Earth gone, restraint was no longer a virtue. Admiral Reyes stepped into the command cradle of the flagship, Nemesis 01. The interior was pitch black, lined with responsive alloy that shifted when he touched it. He placed his hand on the crystalline command core. It analyzed his biometrics in silence. Then the ship spoke. "Welcome back, Admiral." Its voice was female, cold, and ringed with something inhuman. "Authorization. Extinction protocol confirmed." Riven felt the deck vibrate as power surged through the vessel. "Status report," he ordered. "All units are operational. Awakening cycle complete. Weapons at full capacity. Shield lattice stable. Cloak field engaged." Riven nodded. He had dreamed of never needing this. He had dreamed of peace. But dreamers were the first to die when the Empire arrived. Mara entered behind him, her face illuminated by the red glow. "We're receiving the Empire's public broadcast." "Put it through." A hologram flickered to life. Emperor Calther V, draped in shimmering armor, eyes devoid of empathy. Behind him, alien banners waved in a hall built from the bones of conquered species. "Inhabitants of the outer fringe," he said, voice oily and triumphant. "As of this cycle, the Terra species has been purified. Their world and their population are no more. Let this serve as a reminder. Resistance to the Empire is futile. Compliance preserves life. Rebellion ensures annihilation." Mara's jaw tightened. Riven watched silently. Calther continued. "If any human remnants remain adrift in the dark, hear these words. Your suffering is over. Your era is extinguished. The galaxy moves forward without you." The broadcast cut. Silence filled the bridge like a rising tide. Mara whispered, "He thinks we're already dead." Riven turned toward the viewport, where the Nemesis fleet hovered like a constellation of nightmares. "That's our greatest weapon," he replied. "A dead enemy is an enemy that can strike without warning." He lifted his hand. A holographic star map appeared. Empire territory stretched across it like a malignant scar. "There," he pointed, tapping a region near the Imperial core. "Vealoria Prime. Military throne world. If we hit them there, we cut off their head." Mara stared. "That's suicide." "No," he said. "It's shock. Humanity's resurrection begins with fear." She didn't argue. She understood. Earth didn't fall because humanity was weak. It fell because the Empire struck first, struck fast, struck without hesitation. Now humanity would do the same. The fleet assembled behind them. Hundreds of ships, each one a fortress, each one a dagger poised to plunge into the Empire's throat. Engines flared silently in the void. Nemesis 01's AI spoke again. "All systems green. Awaiting your command, Admiral." Riven closed his eyes for a moment. He saw the child in the broadcast, hand reaching upward. He saw cities crumbling. He heard the last screams of a dying world. He let the pain burn clean through him until nothing remained except steel. "Begin Operation Extinction," he said. The stars warped as the fleet jumped. The void snapped open like torn fabric. The Nemesis fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving Neptune's orbit empty once more, cold, quiet, and unaware that the most dangerous force in galactic history had just been unleashed. The transition through hyperspace was silent, but every soldier aboard felt the weight of what they were about to do. No orders for mercy. No expectations of surrender. No negotiations. Only justice. As the Nemesis fleet cut through the fabric of space-time, Mara watched tactical feeds dance across her visor. "Enemy patrols in the Vealoria sector number in the thousands," she reported. "Satellite arrays more than we expected." Riven didn't blink. "They will not see us." He tapped a command. A ripple of shadow passed over the hull, cloaking systems activating. The black alloy bent light itself around them, rendering the fleet invisible to conventional and quantum scanners. "Even if they detect distortions," Mara asked, "they'll assume it's cosmic noise." Who would believe the dead return? Just then, the ship's AI murmured, "Admiral, an anomaly ahead. Unregistered warp signature. Not Imperial." Riven frowned. "Show me." A hologram materialized, a sleek, silver vessel unlike anything in the Empire's fleet. Its design was elegant, almost organic, as though grown rather than built. No weapon signatures. No transmissions. No registry. Mara stiffened. "What is that?" "A watcher," Riven said quietly. "I've seen rumors. A species older than the Empire. They observe. They never interfere." "What are they doing here?" "Waiting." "For what?" "For the galaxy to change." The silver vessel drifted silently beside the fleet, completely visible, completely unafraid, then vanished in a flash of white light. Mara exhaled. "Should we be concerned?" "Not yet," Riven said. "But they weren't here by accident." The fleet exited hyperspace moments later, dropping into the outer orbit of Veloria Prime. It was beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful, sharp, cold, merciless. Golden towers pierced the atmosphere. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a metal crown. Warships drifted in formation, their hulls gleaming with Imperial sigils. Mara's nerves tightened. "They have millions down there." "Millions who cheered as Earth burned," Riven replied. The fleet drifted unseen, cloaked shadows brushing past enemy scanners. The Empire had no idea death was already above them. "Admiral," the AI said, "we are in range." Riven leaned forward. "Open the maw." The Nemesis hull split softly along invisible seams. A low mechanical growl echoed as the ship prepared its deadliest weapon. Mara felt the hair on her arms rise. "Do it." Riven gave the order. "Fire." The Valkyrie fleet left the shattered remains of the Imperial patrol drifting in silence, their hulls reflecting distant starlight like drifting tombstones. The bridge of the UNS Vengeance pulsed with low crimson light, battle reports scrolling across transparent tactical boards, but the crew wasn't celebrating. Humans didn't cheer for survival anymore. They endured it. Reyes stood at the center platform, silent, eyes locked on the holographic projection that flickered over the round table. It showed the last 5 minutes of the battle. Every beam impact, every Imperial hull fracture, every human maneuver. He watched it again and again, studying, refining, sharpening. Because the next encounter wouldn't be with a scouting patrol. It would be with a fleet large enough to erase solar systems. And humanity couldn't afford to lose even one ship. Admiral Reyes approached him quietly. "We've confirmed it," she said, her voice reserved. Before the patrol died, one ship got off a partial FTL burst. Reyes didn't move. Meaning the Empire knows we're alive. The words echoed like a funeral bell. The bridge fell into a frozen silence. Reyes turned slowly, jaw clenched, eyes burning with something far deeper than anger. "Good," he finally said. "Let them come." For a normal species, those words might have been bravado. But for humans, who had already crawled out of their own annihilation, they were a promise carved from bone. A communications officer stepped forward. "Sir, incoming transmission from Commander Vale on the carrier Retribution. He says it's urgent." Reyes nodded. "Put him through." Vale's hologram materialized. His face was shadowed, but his voice carried the tension of a man who had stared directly into a future dripping with blood. "Reyes, we've been monitoring long-range gravity distortions. A massive one just appeared at the edge of the sector." "How massive?" Reyes asked. Vale hesitated. "It's an Imperial war cluster." The bridge tensed as every pair of human eyes widened. Imperial war clusters weren't fleets. They were armies. 10,000 ships. Carrier worlds. Stellar range artillery. A force designed to crush entire empires. "They'll arrive in 9 hours," Vale continued grimly. "We can't outrun them. Even if we jumped immediately, they'd track us." Reyes didn't blink. "Then we don't run." Vale exhaled. "I had a feeling you'd say that." The Admiral turned away, staring into the vast starfield beyond the viewing glass. Dark, endless, uncaring. "This is our first real test. If the Empire sees us as a threat, they'll commit their full might. If they see us as an inconvenience, they'll only send this one cluster." "And if we lose?" Vale asked. Reyes didn't hesitate. "Operation Extinction dies here." The words slammed into the crew like a physical force. They all knew what that meant. Their secret weaponry on Titan. The God-forged singularity torpedoes. The antimatter crucibles hidden around the solar perimeter. All of it useless if the humans died before deploying them. Reyes turned to Jean. Prepare the fleet. Full combat loadout. We position at Scutum 19 and turn the nebula into a kill chamber. Jean nodded sharply, but Vale remained silent for a moment before speaking again. There's something else, something worse. Reyes frowned. Worse than 10,000 ships. Vale swallowed. They brought one of the 5. One of the Imperial sovereigns. The bridge fell silent. Even the ship's hum fell quieter. Imperial sovereigns weren't politicians. They were living demigods, genetically engineered, cybernetically enhanced, indoctrinated from birth, wielding the psychic command arrays that let them control fleets with thought alone. Entire species had surrendered upon hearing a sovereign had arrived. Which one? Reyes asked. Sovereign Zyrith. Jean cursed under her breath. Reyes' expression shifted, subtle but real. He had not expected that. Zyrith was the Empire's executioner, the one who ordered Earth's destruction, the one who watched the orbital bombardment like someone admiring fireworks. Reyes' voice dropped to a quiet, deadly whisper. Good. Then we can kill him, too. The crew felt it. Not confidence. Not hope. Something colder. Sharper. Humanity wasn't fighting for territory, or glory, or power. They were fighting for the right to exist. The tactical table shifted as the hologram of a nebula flickered into view, blue and violet clouds swirling around a cluster of dense ion storms. Scutum 19. A place where sensors became blind, shields faltered, and ships could die without ever seeing what fired upon them. Jean traced the map with her fingers. We deploy the Valkyries here, hidden in the magnetic pockets. The carriers will anchor behind the densest ion stream. Drag the war cluster inside. Their numbers won't matter. Reyes nodded. And once the Sovereign enters the kill zone. He turned toward the crew. We unleash the first Omega-class weapon. Eyes widened. Some stepped back. The Omega had never been used. Not even tested. It was theoretical devastation, a weapon that twisted space-time into a collapsing blade of exotic energy, turning everything inside its radius into quantum ash. Even humans were afraid of it. Especially humans. Sir, Jean said carefully, Omega will hit our ships too. Nothing survives inside a 3 AU radius. Reyes' eyes hardened. We won't be inside it. How do you know Zyrith will be? Vale asked. Reyes tilted his head slightly. Because Zyrith always wants to watch. Silence. Then Jean whispered, Damn. Reyes stepped forward, voice resounding across the bridge. Prepare the fleet. Signal all wings. Ready every Valkyrie. The Empire is coming, and we are done hiding in the shadows of dead stars. He exhaled, a sound heavy with memory, Earth burning, children screaming, oceans boiling under orbital fire. This ends with humanity reclaiming the stars, he said, or with us leaving behind a message carved with our bones. Humans do not disappear. Jean straightened. Vale saluted through the hologram. Reyes gave the final order. All ships, initiate Operation Grave Mind. The lights dimmed. Engines roared. The black void trembled as Earth's last children prepared to slaughter the universe's greatest empire. Humanity wasn't the victim anymore. Humanity had become the reckoning. The fleet surged into motion, like a machine awakening from a long, murderous dream. Engines flared pale blue. Shadows cut across the nebula's swirling gas clouds, and every human ship aligned into the precise geometry of a trap only a cornered species would design. Scutum 19 roiled before them, a churning mass of electromagnetic turbulence and ion storms that bent light and shredded unshielded hulls. A graveyard made of starlight. A perfect kill zone. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Reyes watched as the fleet's telemetry streamed across the hollow sphere. Each Valkyrie interceptor, a spear of human rage forged into steel, took its hidden position inside the nebula pockets. Dreadnoughts anchored behind the dense ion walls. Carriers drifted far behind, silent, cold, waiting. Humanity had become a shadow in the fog, invisible to anything not born of Earth. A junior officer approached, voice tight. Sir, we're receiving long-range gravitic echoes. The war cluster is entering system boundaries. Reyes closed his eyes briefly. It was beginning. The tactical map shifted violently as 10,000 red markers bled into the hologram, their formations ripping through space like a tidal wave of metal. carrier citadels the size of mountains, planet crackers, siege platforms, swarms of destroyers. The Empire's full hatred coming for the remnants of humanity. Jean inhaled sharply. They deployed in hunting formation. They're confident. Good, Reyes said quietly. Confidence kills. Another officer added, they're broadcasting a message on all open channels. Reyes nodded. Let's hear it. The bridge vibrated as the voice poured through the speakers, calm, cold, dripping with arrogance that had been bred into imperial bloodlines for centuries. Human remnants, it said. This is Sovereign Zyrith of Eternal Empire. Your resistance is mathematically pointless. Surrender your ships, and you will be granted a swift death. Jean clenched her fists. Another message followed, like a knife twisting deeper. You have inflicted minor embarrassment on the Empire. Be grateful. Your eventual annihilation will serve as a warning to lesser species who forget their place. Reyes stepped toward the comm hollow. Open return channel. The officer hesitated. Sir, the moment we transmit. They'll detect our location. I know. The channel opened, static crackling. Reyes leaned forward, voice low, steady, and sharpened to a lethal edge. Zyrith. Silence from the Empire's side. It wasn't fear. Sovereigns didn't feel fear. It was surprise. He hadn't expected a human to speak his name like an equal. Reyes continued, you murdered billions. You burned our world to the bedrock. Today you answer for it. A pause. Then Zyrith's voice returned, tinged with amusement. Human, you survived my purge. Fascinating. I will take great pleasure in correcting that oversight myself. Reyes didn't blink. Come find me, then. There was a crack of static as the human channel shut. Jean stared at him. You know he'll come. That's the point, Reyes replied. We want him inside the nebula before we trigger Omega. The Empire swept into Scutum, 19, like a blade through fog. Their warships glowed crimson under nebula lightning. Plasma shields shimmered. Millions of drones swarmed out like an angry cloud of metal hornets. But inside the storm, the Empire's sensors flickered. A carrier citadel adjusted its arrays. We are experiencing interference. Target signatures are. The rest of the transmission dissolved into distortion. The human trap was closing. Valkyrie Wing 4 launched first. Silent. Invisible. Their hulls coated with dark matter dust harvested from Neptune's exosphere, an invention no other species had imagined, much less weaponized. They streaked forward through the dense blue fog, ghost-like. A massive Imperial dreadnought appeared through the clouds, its engines roaring, shield flares cutting through the gas storm. The operator inside barely noticed the faint ripples of displacement behind them. By the time he did, it was too late. The Valkyries fired in perfect unison. 100 shape singularity lances tore through the dreadnought's shields like wet paper. The ship convulsed and folded inward, collapsing into itself as the micro-singularity ate its core. The dreadnought blinked out of existence. No explosion, no wreckage, just a void, empty and silent. The Empire screamed across comms. Invisible attackers. Sensors are blind, scans are corrupted, multiple ships lost. Sovereign, we request countermeasures. Zyrith's voice boomed across the network, cold enough to freeze stars. Press forward. Humans cannot hide from inevitability. But inevitability didn't work in Scutum, 19. A battleship drifted unknowingly between 2 ion streams, and its shields buckled. Its armor scintillated under the nebula's destructive particles. Valkyrie Wing 7 pounced, precision strikes peeling the ship open like a tin can. The Empire responded with brute force, firing plasma arcs into the fog, carving through the nebula, trying to expose the hidden fleet. But every shot only revealed more nothingness, more smoke, more illusions. Reyes watched it all from the bridge, cold fire behind his eyes. Jean, he said, status on Zyrith's flagship? Entering the kill zone now, she said. We've got one shot at trapping him. Reyes nodded. Signal coil team. Begin Omega charging sequence. The communications officer turned pale. Sir, once we start charging, we can't stop it. I know, Reyes said. Do it. Below the ship, deep in the armored belly of the Vengeance, the Omega chamber awakened. Ancient machinery roared. Gravitational coils screamed under pressure. A black sphere began forming at the center, devouring the light around it. The air itself trembled as space warped unnaturally. Reyes felt the deck plates vibrate, felt his bones resonate in warning. Omega wasn't a weapon. It was a wound in reality. "We have 9 minutes until maximum charge," Jean said. "After that, we fire, or it detonates in the core." "We'll fire," Reyes said. "Because if they didn't, the entire human species would vanish in a silent flash of quantum erasure." Far ahead, Xyretha's flagship, the Imperial Obsidian Crown, emerged through the thickest part of the nebula. It was monstrous, kilometers long, shaped like a jagged blade, its hull carved with ancient sigils, its psychic array glowing with violet threads of energy. Jean whispered, "That's the ship that bombarded Earth." Reyes' jaw flexed. "Then it dies today." The Obsidian Crown accelerated, cutting a path through the nebula. The Sovereign's voice rang out across the comms again. "Human fleet, your ghost tactics amuse me. Come out and die with dignity." Reyes didn't answer. Humans didn't give their enemies dignity. They gave them nightmares. The nebula erupted as the Vengeance decloaked directly behind the Imperial flagship, engines blazing, cannons roaring to life in a blinding fury. Jean stared. "Admiral, this close? They're shields." Reyes' voice was a whisper of steel. "I want Xyreth to see our face before he dies." The first volley slammed into the Obsidian Crown, shields sparking, armor plates buckling. Xyretha's psychic scream reverberated through the comms, more rage than pain. Reyes leaned forward. "Fire everything." The Vengeance unleashed hell. Every cannon roared. Every missile bay emptied. Every beam emitter glowed molten white as it poured its fury into the Obsidian Crown at point-blank range. The Imperial flagship bucked under the assault, shield layers peeling away in sheets of burning plasma. Alarms rippled through its decks like panic screams. Inside the Crown, Sovereign Xyreth rose from his throne, eyes blazing violet. His psychic aura flared, crackling across the bridge like a storm. "Human audacity," he hissed. "You think proximity gives you advantage." Reyes watched the Imperial shields flicker on the hollow. "Jean, report." "Outer shields down to 40%, she said. "Their armor's resisting our particle cannons, but the gravity spikes are cracking it." "Good," Reyes replied. "Hold position." Jean stared at him. "We're in knife-fight range with a Sovereign flagship. If they retaliate..." Reyes didn't blink. "They will. And that's when Omega will finish charging." The deck trembled as the Obsidian Crown retaliated. A massive pulse of violet energy burst from its aft spines, slamming into the Vengeance like a hammer from a god. Consoles exploded. Shields flashed white. Crew members staggered as gravity fluctuated violently. "Direct hit," an officer shouted. "Shields down to 73%. Another blast. The hull groaned. 68. Reyes clenched the railing. "Stabilize. Bleed power from the dorsal guns to the forward shields." Jean swallowed hard. "We can't keep trading blows like this." "We won't," Reyes said, because Omega was screaming in the reactor chamber now. Every second the gravitational core deepened, eating the light around it. The wound in reality widened, dripping quantum distortion into the ship's structure. Even the air tasted metallic. Reyes felt it in his bones, a trembling, creeping pressure, as if the universe itself didn't want to be near the weapon humanity had built. "Omega charge at 72%, Jean reported. "Estimated time to full charge 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The Obsidian Crown surged forward, engines flaring a sickening violet glare. It twisted, angling to broadside the Vengeance with a full capital-class lance. "Brace." Reyes barked. A beam the width of a city tore across space. It clipped the Vengeance's starboard flank, carving molten scars into the armor plates. Entire sections vented atmosphere. Hundreds died instantly, sucked into the nebula's storm. A silence fell on the bridge, heavy and suffocating. Reyes didn't look away from a hollow. "Seal decks D through H. Redirect coolant into the reactor sheath." Jean whispered, voice cracking for the first time. "We just lost 300 souls." Reyes exhaled slowly. "And we'll lose billions more if we fail." Another blast rocked the ship. Sparks rained down. Emergency lighting flickered. The Obsidian Crown turned again, repositioning for a killing strike. On its bridge, Xyretha's voice echoed, amplified by psychic resonance. "Human Admiral," he said, dripping disdain. "Your persistence fascinates me. Your tactics amuse me. But you are still only flesh. Only mortal. Only prey." Reyes stepped closer to the comm panel, eyes locked on the monstrous ship outside. "Sovereign," he said quietly, "I'm more than that today." "Indeed." Xyrith sneered. "What are you, then?" Reyes looked toward the reactor deck, where Omega churned like a caged star. "Your extinction." Xyrith's laugh shook the comm channels. "You cannot extinguish the eternal empire." Reyes smiled coldly. "Watch me." A shriek of alarms cut through the bridge. "Admiral," an officer cried. "Omega charge at 95%. Gravitational bleed is destabilizing the hull." Jean staggered as the deck pitched. "Admiral, if we don't fire soon." "We fire when the shot guarantees Xyrith dies," Reyes said. Not a second earlier. The obsidian crown opened its primary lance array. A monstrous purple-black sphere of antimatter plasma formed, crackling with raw destruction. "They're preparing their execution shot." Jean shouted, "This one will cut us in half." Reyes gripped the rail, so tightly his knuckles went white. "Hold." The Vengeance shuddered. The hull rang like a bell. "Hold." The antimatter sphere grew larger. "Admiral." Jean screamed, "We have to fire now." Reyes looked at the tactical holo. Xyrith's flagship was fully exposed. Its shields fractured. Its armor compromised. Its energy focused entirely on killing the Vengeance. Everything it had pointed in one direction. Reyes breathed in. "Fire Omega." The universe went silent. For a fraction of a heartbeat, everything froze. Time faltered. Light wavered. Then the Omega lance roared into existence. A beam of collapsing space-time ripped from a Vengeance, not bright like plasma, not colorful like energy, black, hungry, devouring. A streak of impossible darkness that tore through reality and carved straight into the obsidian crown. The Imperial flagship convulsed. Armor plates crumpled inward. Energy conduits burst. The psychic field surrounding it imploded, crushing the Sovereign's aura in on itself. Xyrith screamed, an inhuman, psychic howl that stabbed into every human mind in the system. Reyes gritted his teeth through the pain, staring at the collapsing Titan. "Let him feel it," he growled. The Omega lance pierced deeper. The flagship's hull began folding, layer by layer, sucked toward a singular point. Gravity ripped through it like claws. Decks twisted. Crew disintegrated. System shattered. Jean whispered, trembling, "My God." Reyes spoke softly, deadly calm. "No, not God. Omega." The obsidian crown ruptured. Then it evaporated into a microscopic tear in space, erased entirely, gone forever. Xyrith with it. Silence swallowed the nebula. Then Imperial comms erupted in screams. "Sovereign offline, flagship destroyed, pull back, pull back. There's something wrong with the human weapon. Run, run." The Empire panicked. For the first time in its history, Reyes felt the deck vibrate beneath him. Slowly, deeply. "Jean," he said, voice low. Her eyes went wide. "Admiral, Omega isn't shutting down." The tactical screens dimmed. The lights flickered. The air trembled. Reyes realized the truth. Omega was not done. Omega was not satisfied. Omega was waking up. "Admiral," Jean whispered, horrified, it's feeding." The black wound in space, still connected to the Vengeance, widened. And this time, it wasn't aimed at the Empire. It was aimed at them. The Vengeance shuddered as Omega pulled at the ship like a starving beast. The hull groaned with a deep, metallic agony. Lights flickered. Gravity fluctuated. Alarms screamed in overlapping layers of panic. Jean slammed her hands onto the console. "Admiral, Omega's gravitational envelope is expanding. It's trying to anchor itself to the core systems." "Cut the conduits," Reyes snapped. "Manually if you have to." "I already did." Jean shouted. "Omega is ignoring the shutdown commands, it's rewriting them." The crew exchanged terrified glances. Every human on the bridge felt the same impossible sensation, like reality bending inward, like the air thinning around them, as if the ship itself was slipping into a place no living thing belonged. Reyes pressed his hand to the emergency override. "Engineering status." A voice crackled through, distorted, trembling. "Sir, it's alive." Reyes froze. "Repeat that." "The Omega core, it isn't acting like a machine. It's reacting, adapting, learning, like it knows it's been released." A violent tremor ripped through the ship. Holoscreens shattered. The floor buckled beneath their feet. Crew fell, grabbing onto anything they could, Jean shouted over the chaos. The core's gravitational field is turning inward. If it collapses any further, it'll pull the reactor into a singularity. Reyes steadied himself. Jettison it. We can't. Jean yelled. Omega has locked the core clamps. It won't let us release it. Another pull, stronger. The metal of the deck plates began to bow upward toward the reactor chamber, warping like heated plastic. The Vengeance was being eaten. Slowly, methodically, like Omega wanted to merge. Reyes felt a chill crawl up his spine. The Omega Project had been humanity's last resort, a weapon designed with alien mathematics and stolen theoretical physics, the kind of technology that should never have been built. The scientists had warned them. Omega is not a weapon. It is a threshold. Once open, something may come through. Another impact slammed through the hull, this time from outside. Imperial ships, terrified and scrambling, were firing desperately as they fled, hoping the humans would die with the monstrous thing they unleashed. Reyes growled, focus defensive fire on anything that enters optimal range. We do not have time for Imperial gnats. A comms officer pointed to the forward viewport with shaking hands. Sir, something's happening outside. The nebula was bending. Not swirling, not shifting, but bending, contorting around the Vengeance like fabric being pulled tight. Colors stretched into streaks of impossible hues. Stars warped. Space itself writhed. Jean whispered, horrified, Omega's gravity, well, is destabilizing the local space-time lattice. If it ruptures. It won't, Reyes said. He didn't know if that was true. He only knew one thing. Humanity was not dying today. Bridge crew, he ordered, voice steady despite the chaos. Prepare to cut power to the main bus. Jean spun toward him. That will shut down life support. Shields. Weapons. Everything. It may shut down Omega. He met her eyes. It's either that, or we let it consume the ship. Before Jean could respond, the lights flickered and died. Total darkness. The bridge went silent except for the groaning of the hull and the distant, monstrous hum of the Omega core. Then, a whisper. Not sound. Not exactly. A vibration at the base of every human skull. A low, resonant voice made of gravity and void. You burn like stars. You grieve like collapsing suns. You resist annihilation, as though you remember it. Jean dropped to her knees, clutching her head. Officers cried out. Some screamed. The resonance drilled into their minds like a cold needle. Reyes stood frozen. Omega was speaking. The voice continued, soft but vast. 7 billion extinguished. A wound carved across time. A species broken, yet unyielding. Reyes forced himself to move. He stepped forward. What are you? He said, voice low. The whisper coiled through his mind. I am the shadow between atoms. The hunger beneath light. You woke me. Jean gasped. Admiral, it's communicating through gravitational resonance. It's not alive, not conscious, not in any way we understand. It's like a primordial pattern of a universe. Reyes ignored the fear clawing at him. He spoke aloud, knowing the thing could hear him anyway. We didn't wake you, he said. We built a weapon. The whisper seemed to almost laugh. You tore open a scar in the void and expected nothing to bleed. Reyes clenched his fists. We built you to wipe out the Empire. The dark resonance intensified. You built me to end a civilization. And now you ask me to remain caged. The gravitational pull surged. Consoles tore from their mouths. Metal shrieked as entire bulkheads bent inward. I will not return to silence. A beam of reactor light flared from the core chamber, dark, shimmering, wrong. Omega was about to breach containment permanently. Jean screamed over the rising roar. Admiral, if we don't shut it down right now, it will merge with the ship and consume us all. Reyes made his decision. Override all safeties, he ordered. Cut power to the entire ship. Every last watt. Jean nodded, hands trembling as she slid across the half-tilted deck to reach the emergency control. On your command. Reyes stared into the darkness. Do it. Jean hit the switch. Everything went black. No lights. No engines. No gravity. Omega's hum faltered, like a beast surprised. For a heartbeat, the void held its breath. Then, a deep, angry pulse shook the entire ship. You cannot kill hunger. You cannot silence the void. The gravitational pull intensified again, more violent this time. Jin's voice cracked with terror. Admiral, cutting power didn't stop it. Reyes whispered, Then we change tactics. He straightened. A new plan forming. Dangerous. Reckless. Human. Jean, he said, prepare to release the core manually. Her eyes widened. That's suicide. Anyone near that chamber will be torn apart. Reyes nodded once. I know. Jean grabbed his arm. Admiral, please, you can't go down there. Reyes took a breath, steady and cold. Omega wants a merger. He stepped toward the reactor access hatch. Let's give it something else instead. Jean stared at him in horror. Admiral. Reyes looked back at her. If it's hunger, we're going to feed it a bomb. Reyes descended into the reactor chamber, each step echoing ominously across warped metal floors. The dim red emergency lights flickered, struggling against the pull of Omega's gravity field. The air was thick with static energy, and a metallic tang that clawed at his lungs. Around him, the chamber walls warped subtly, bending light and shadow as if the universe itself were twisting inward. Jin's voice crackled through his calm, trembling. Admiral, you can't survive this alone. The gravitational feedback alone. I know, Reyes said quietly. His boots clanged against warped metal. But someone has to control it. Someone has to steer Omega toward the Empire, not us. He reached the central conduit, Omega's core, a black sphere of impossibility, suspended in a lattice of glowing crystalline coils. The air shimmered around it, distorted by immense gravitational tension. It pulsed like a heartbeat, ominous, ancient, sentient. A voice reverberated through the chamber, not through speakers, not through air, but directly into his mind. You brought me here to feed. You come willingly. Curious. Reyes clenched his jaw. I'm not feeding you. I'm using you. I'm giving you a target. A target. I can taste it. I can feel it. It is vast. The Empire, Reyes said. Your hunger ends there. Omega responded with a resonance so deep it made metal scream. The lattice surrounding the core quivered. Shadows lengthened unnaturally across the chamber floor, coiling like serpents. The Admiral reached into the core's interface, an impossibly complex tangle of alien geometry, dark energy conduits, and human machinery. He keyed in commands with trembling fingers. Omega hissed, a soundless scream that made reality itself ripple. Jin's voice came again, urgent. Admiral, the gravitational feedback, if it overloads the hull, this ship, every human ship, will be torn apart. I know, Reyes said, voice low, but it's now or never. He activated the auxiliary containment vectors. The Omega core's pull surged outward, tearing nearby machinery from its mounts. The lattice cracked. Sparks and energy arcs tore across the room. The pull threatened to crush him, but Reyes gritted his teeth and held fast, gripping the conduits as if his life depended on it, because it did. You resist, Omega murmured. You are not like them. You will be remembered. Good, Reyes said, because today you'll remember the humans. He keyed the final sequence. The Omega core twisted, expanded, and then impossibly tore itself free of the containment lattice. A black tendril of collapsing space reached out from the chamber. It snaked through the ship like liquid shadow, heading toward the nearest exit vector, the direction of Veloria Prime. Jin's voice screamed in his calm, panic-stricken. It's moving. Admiral, it's... Yes, Reyes said, voice grim. It's leaving. The Omega surge rippled through the ship, flinging the Vengeance's hull into the nebulous turbulence. Alarm screamed. Hull integrity was critical. Sections of the ship tore free, drifting into the swirling storm, but the core remained tethered by the last threads of human control. Hold it! Reyes roared. Hold it steady. The core twisted in impossible loops, feeding on the nebula's ion storms, consuming ambient energy, and amplifying its gravitational pull. It streaked across the void like a predator, accelerating toward the Empire's war cluster at incomprehensible speed. From the bridge above, Jean watched as the tactical holo projected the core's trajectory. The Imperial fleet, tens of thousands of ships, was completely unaware. Their sensors could not detect Omega's presence until it was too late. It's a bomb, Jean whispered, voice trembling. And it's bigger than anything we've ever built. Yes, Reyes said quietly, but it's not for us. It's for them. Minutes passed like centuries as the Omega core arced toward the Empire. The Obsidian Crown had been obliterated, but the remaining war cluster loomed ahead. Millions of Imperial lives, billions of lives indirectly complicit in Earth's destruction. The core slowed slightly as it entered the cluster's outer perimeter. Its gravitational tendrils licked at the Imperial ships, subtly pulling them into impossible angles, destabilizing formations, collapsing shields without a single shot being fired. Reyes, Jean said, awestruck, it's rewriting physics around them. He nodded, voice calm. Exactly. 1,000 warships collapsed inward like paper under invisible hands. Energy shields overloaded, plasma reactors detonated prematurely. The cluster's dreadnoughts twisted and flailed as the Omega core consumed not only mass, but also stability, space-time itself bending under its hunger. Admiral, Jean whispered. It's still alive. It's enjoying this. Yes, Reyes said. And we feed it more. The Omega tendrils wrapped around capital ships like invisible chains. Entire fleets folded in on themselves. The void ripped and cracked as the gravitational predator devoured both matter and energy. Explosions occurred without fire, without heat, ships simply collapsing into nothingness. Reyes exhaled slowly. Humanity was striking back, and the galaxy had never seen anything like this. The Emperor's armies, the unstoppable, godlike eternal empire, were being erased not by bullets or missiles, but by a weapon born of human desperation and genius. And the Omega core was far from done. The Omega core surged through the Imperial war cluster like a predator unchained. Entire fleets vanished in flashes of impossible darkness, ships folding into themselves, energy conduits ripped apart without a sound, space-time itself screaming in silent agony. The remaining Imperial vessels were paralyzed, their sensors overwhelmed, their psychic arrays shattered by the collapsing void around them. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Jean and the remaining crew clung to consoles, faces pale, hearts hammering. Admiral, it's unstoppable, she whispered, voice trembling. Reyes didn't answer immediately. He watched the tactical holo. Imperial formations twisted into geometric chaos, starships smashing into one another as the Omega's gravity tendrils bent reality. The core wasn't just a weapon, it was a force of pure reckoning. It's not about stopping it, Reyes said finally, voice low, dangerous steady. It's about guiding it. Direct it toward them, toward everything that hurt us. Let the Empire feel every second of what they've done. Jean swallowed hard. Admiral, if it keeps expanding, the nebula, the cluster, everything might collapse. The core, it could take us all with it. Reyes met her eyes, calm as the storm. Then we ensure humans survive. It's our last choice. Our only one. We finish this. The Vengeance's remaining systems strained under the pull of the Omega core. Engines flared to maximum to maintain position. Shields groaned and warped, bulkheads cracked, but Reyes held steady. Every human alive in the fleet now depended on the precision of this singular moment. Outside, the war cluster, the remaining 1,000 Imperial ships, was now fully within Omega's grip. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, and swarm craft all flailed helplessly, twisted by invisible forces, ripped apart by tendrils of warping gravity. Entire sections of ships folded inward, then vanished. Some vaporized instantly. Others were crushed slowly, as if the Omega core was savoring the punishment. Xyratha's psychic echo, the remnants of a sovereign's presence in the fleet, screamed, a psychic howl so intense it made the human crew stagger. You dare use my own destruction against me. The voice reverberated through space, through minds, through the Omega's hunger itself. You cannot defeat what you do not understand. Reyes leaned forward over the rail, eyes burning. I understand enough, he said, voice low and lethal. You destroyed our world. You killed billions. You created this. And today you end it. The Omega pulse intensified, a deep, resonant hum that echoed through every ship, every particle in the sector. Ships twisted, shields burst, energy cores collapsed. The war cluster convulsed, then imploded in waves of space-time collapse, entire star systems worth of vessels disappearing into the nothingness Omega created. Jean clutched the railing, voice shaking. Admiral, it's finished, isn't it? Reyes shook his head, watching the Omega core pulse like a dark heartbeat. Not finished. Not yet. We guide it, we finish the Empire. The core stretched tendrils further, reaching toward the heart of the remaining Imperial territory. The surviving ships fled, screaming across the void, but Omega's pull was inevitable. Reality itself bent toward the core, collapsing under the sheer mass of its gravitational hunger. Reyes exhaled, voice calm, resolute. Every human alive owes this moment. Not revenge, justice. Humanity survives because we fight. Humanity survives because we endure. And humanity will never, ever vanish again. Omega obeyed the command, its force tearing through the remnants of the eternal empire. Entire carrier worlds vanished, fleets collapsed like sandcastles against the tide, and Xyretha's consciousness, the last trace of the sovereign, screamed in psychic torment before dissolving into nothing. The nebula roared as the Omega core finished its task. For a heartbeat, the universe itself seemed to exhale. Then the core recoiled, shrank, and returned, tethered still to the vengeance, silent now, but alive, waiting, a dark guardian born of human ingenuity and grief. Jean looked at Reyes, awed and trembling. "Admiral, we did it. The Empire, it's gone. Humanity survives." Reyes nodded, jaw tight. "We survived. But this is only the beginning. We've shown the galaxy. Humanity will never bow. Humanity will never be extinguished. Not by gods, not by monsters, not by empires." Outside the viewport, the nebula's colors shifted from chaos to calm. Star systems burned quietly in the aftermath. The remnants of the Imperial War cluster were gone, erased, leaving a void littered with the whispers of what had been. Humanity's shadow now stretched across the stars. Reyes stood alone for a moment, hands on the railing, eyes burning with something deeper than victory. Anger, resolve, and hope. For 7 billion souls lost. For every child, every city, every ocean on a scorched earth. The Vengeance's crew gathered around him, exhausted, battered alive. Survivors of the Purge. Survivors of extinction. Survivors of their own reckoning. Reyes spoke softly, resolutely. "The stars are ours now. And anyone who dares threaten humanity will meet the same end. We are human, and we will endure." The Omega core pulsed once, a silent echo of power, an eternal guardian of humanity's vengeance. And in the dark of space, where billions had died, one truth now burned brighter than any star. Humans do not vanish. Humans never surrender. Humans endure.